Okay, official Mike said my professor said there is no free will, just electrical and chemical responses to stimulus, which is why we react the way we react. Care to counter? Yes, he's wrong. um, that is a determinist perspective. You'll find that among a lot of atheists. That's a very popular conception among atheists, actually. It only makes sense if you don't believe in the soul. So if you think that everything is 100% physical and there's no spiritual realm, then I would argue that that perspective makes sense. But the problem with that is, well, there is a spiritual realm, and also if everything's like 100% physical, then how come you can't just like reanimate a corpse? Like there's no like physical explanation for life, like as like how it works. Like there's no physical explanation for why I'm saying the words that I'm saying, right? No one can like look at my body and be like, oh yeah, it makes sense that he would be like, hey, type W in the chat. Like there's nothing about that. That aspect, like me doing things, is like 100% spiritual. Like we can hook people up to ventilators and force them to breathe, but that doesn't like actually animate them and make them alive, if that makes sense. And so just because of that, I would have to say no. There's no like I would not agree with determinism, although I do think that, you know, a lot of scriptures sort of lean into give credence to the Calvinist perspective, which I kind of lean into Calvinism a little bit, which basically says that there is not complete free will. I only say that because I believe in God's sovereignty, so that means that he's like the power to like kind of like control like what goes on. So it's not like everything that happens is outside of his control. And I think that's very important, especially when it comes to things like Revelation, right? Because if you believe that God does not have control over what happens in the future, then you don't know, for example, for sure that the prophecies from Revelation are pretty true, are going to come to pass. Because then all you know that God has a pretty good track record of prophecies like in the past, but what about like the future? But knowing that God has sovereignty and control over everything means that whenever he says something's going to happen in the future, no matter about whether or not he's been proven right or not by history, you know that it's going to come to pass. So, and that said, I can get down with determinist art because I'm a Calvinist. So there's a way that like predeterminism says everything is going to be, like what happens is going to happen. As a Christian, I also believe the same thing, but it's just a matter of like why that's the case. So there's like some determinist art that sort of examines like life choices and things like that. Like the FX miniseries Devs is a great example of this. And like it's really easy to read as like a Christian, like from a Christian lens, if you believe in like predestination, because you're like, hey, God has like put in place a plan for the future, so can you deviate from that? And the answer is like no. But then like you do make your own choices, and so then like the whole show kind of wrestles with that concept, and that is a concept that Calvinists have to deal with anyways. So it just makes for very interesting watching. So I can definitely listen to a determinist talk, and I can like especially enjoy determinist entertainment. But when it comes down to the ideology, no, because I'd have to reject the concept of the spirit realm, and the spirit realm definitely exists.